Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging straight into the heart of an enduring California mystery, and it's one that begins not with, a typical crime scene, but with a house. A massive, austere, cold stone house overlooking the Pacific Ocean.
It's more than a house. It's a character in this story.
Absolutely. And this isn't just about a cold case. This is really about the decades-long collapse of one of America's great political families. We're talking about the Towers.
We are, and we're talking about Cliffhaven, their ancestral seat, which is just dramatically situated on the Central Coast. For 40 years, the disappearance of the high society heiress Summaries Towers has been, well, it's been cataloged as a tragedy.
Right, just a missing person case. She vanished after this lavish 18th birthday party back in 1982.
Exactly. But that classification, that whole narrative that the family is so carefully managed for all these years, it just shattered recently.
And it shattered dramatically. The sources we have for this dive are, they're incredibly rich. We're working with contemporaneous articles, so stuff from the time.
Right. And detailed police records, both old and new.
And what's really amazing is we also have these incredibly personal notes and recollections from some of the key figures.
Which is so rare in a case like this.
It is. And what that really lets us do is run a sort of dual timeline analysis. We can try to understand the dangerous, really volatile summer of 1982.
And then compare it directly to the calculated, methodical cold case investigation that's unfolding right now in the present day.
Yeah. So the mission for us today is to connect those two eras. We have to unpack this web of political ambition, massive financial threats, and just deep, deep family trauma that defined the Towers dynasty.
And we have to do it with some urgency, because the recent discoveries at Cliffhaven have turned this cold case into something else entirely. It is now a chilling double homicide investigation.
Okay, so let's start with the catalyst, the thing that kicked this all off again.
The initial shocking discovery.
It was made by construction workers. The sources say that these heavy winter rains had eroded the clay soil near the east wing of Cliffhaven. They were doing a fortification project.
Right, just routine maintenance on a massive estate. And then they found something. They found skeletal remains.
Specifically, investigators recovered a left femur, the pelvic girdle, and part of a skull.
And the DNA confirmation was swift. And it was grim. These were the bones of Summaries Towers, missing, as you said, since her birthday night in September of 1982.
So foul play was immediately assumed. The case is instantly escalated.
But here's where the drama just explodes. This is what takes a complex case and turns it into a true nightmare for the investigators. Almost immediately after they confirm Swarzy's identity,
They find more.
the construction crew uncovers a second set of remains nearby. An unidentified male, a John Doe.
This changes everything.
Everything. It's no longer just the mystery of the missing heiress. It's a decades-old double homicide hidden right there beneath the grounds of one of the most powerful and secretive families in the entire state.
And for you, the listener, dissecting this complexity means you have to move beyond a simple whodunit. You have to immediately start assessing motive and opportunity across multiple victims, multiple suspects, and 40 years of secrets.
It's a huge task.
So let's start where the crimes were committed. We have to start with Cliffhaven itself because the house is so much more than just a setting.
Oh, absolutely. It is the physical manifestation of this family's obsession with legacy and, maybe more importantly, control.
Talk a little bit about the house itself. It's monumental, right?
It is. It's this austere stone fortress overlooking the Central Coast. And even its construction story is incredibly telling.
Yeah.
It was started way back in 1897 by Remington Towers.
Okay.
He was building it as a wedding gift for his young bride, Doris Oppenheimer, the oil heiress.
Wow.
The sources are really clear that this was meant to be the ultimate statement of power.
But it wasn't finished until 1935?
In 1935.
Think about that for a second. That's nearly 4 decades to complete a house.
It's insane. And the source material explicitly notes that delay was due to Doris's exacting tastes. I mean, that suggests a level of impossible perfectionism.
A perfectionism that must have just permeated the entire family for generations.
It had to. It signals that this is a family that does not tolerate imperfection. They don't compromise. And the house itself, I mean, it's a labyrinth. It's full of these unused but still occupied spaces.
Like Doris's parlor. That detail stood out to me.
Yes. We read that her parlor remains untouched, perfectly preserved long after her death. The past isn't just remembered at Cliffhaven.
No, it's chemically preserved. It dictates the reality of the people living there right now.
Exactly. And the legacy they were trying to preserve with all that stone and perfectionism is immense. I mean, when we talk about the Towers, we are talking about a political dynasty that gets whispered in the same breath as, the Kennedys or the Roosevelts.
This is American history embodied in a single family tree.
Precisely. You can just look back through the generations. There's Arthur James Towers, who was part of the Bear Flag Revolt and later a U.S. Senator.
Right.
Then Remington Towers, the one who built the house. He was key in establishing Yosemite National Park.
Augustus Towers was a governor, a friend of Truman, a UN contributor.
And then you have Soares' father, Charles, a respected congressman and mayor of San Luis Obispo. Every single generation was expected to achieve greatness, to be part of the nation's foundation.
And yet, beneath that just pristine facade of public service and this untouchable wealth, there is this relentless, almost cinematic history of tragedy.
The Towers Curse.
That's what the local papers called it. And it's this constant, brutal reminder that their control is, in the end, just an illusion.
And the curse is so specific, it's so brutal. It just whittles down the family tree generation by generation. Soares' parents, for instance, killed in a sudden plane crash.
Her brother, Theo, died in a skiing incident, an epidural hematoma.
An aunt was lost in a horseback riding accident. These are all, high-risk, high-society tragedies. It reinforces this idea of a family that lives intensely and very often dangerously.
But the detail that really sticks out to me, the one that makes the curse feel less like some sort of classical tragedy and more like a unique, specific horror, is the great-uncle, Sebastian Towers.
Ah, yes, the legendary Sebastian Towers.
He drowned in a molasses explosion in Keeney Square, Boston.
2 days after his wedding.
A molasses explosion. I mean, that is not a common way to go, even back then. It's so outlandish, it's so specific and messy. For a member of such a controlled, pristine family to die like that.
It suggests a profound and unique vulnerability to just chaos. It reinforces the psychological weight that the current generation, particularly Ransom, must have been carrying.
How do you govern a state or run a corporation when your family history is punctuated by one of your ancestors drowning in a sea of hot, sticky syrup?
It's impossible. And that trauma, that constant, unpredictable attrition of the family, that's what whittled the numbers down, and it put immense pressure on the survivors. And the only constant, the true keeper of this troubled house, is Florence Talbot, Mrs. Talbot, the longtime housekeeper.
Florence is pivotal. Her entire life is inextricably linked to that estate.
She was born in the house in 1941. Her mother was a scullery maid.
So she grew up alongside the Towers' children, Charles, Verity, and Astrid. The source details this incredible little fact that she was even given a silver rosary ring by Doris Oppenheimer Towers herself.
It's a sign of her deep, almost familial connection to the dynasty. She is the stalwart captain of that ship. Her soul, her mind, her heart, the sources tell us they are tethered to the weathered stones of this house. This is not an employee.
No, she's a force of nature.
And that tethering, it grants her this kind of near-total authority, sort of domestic omniscience that stems from her extensive network of eyes and ears.
She knew the landscape, she knew the rain, the shifts in the earth. That's why the source material notes that she knew. She knew those first bones belonged to Soares even before the DNA came back. She just knew the secrets of the house.
But the sources give us one perfect, clear moment where that near-omniscient control completely shatters.
Okay.
This is the moment when Sally, who's a younger maid that Florence had enlisted to kind of discreetly hover around the construction workers, she rushes back to the drawing room.
And she's panicked.
She's pale, panicked, and she reports, "I don't mean Miss Soares. I mean, they've found someone else. Another body."
And Florence, this rock of impenetrability, this woman who has seen everything, she drops her teacup.
It's shattered unceremoniously on the floor. That single detail, the sound of that ceramic breaking on the pristine marble, it signifies that a secret has just been revealed that was so profoundly hidden, so disruptive, that it breaks Florence's decades-long composure.
It wasn't the discovery of Soares that broke her.
No, that was expected. It was tragic, but it was, on some level, predictable. It was the presence of a second body, the John Doe, that fundamentally changed her understanding of the house and the family she had served for 80 years.
It's the signal.
It's the signal that this mystery is far wider and far darker than just the missing heiress.
So we move from the spectral presence of the house and its history to the cold, hard logic of modern investigation. And that investigation is led by Detective Michael Church. He's 38 years old.
And he is the perfect foil for the opulence and control of the Towers family.
How so?
Well, Church is really defined by what he doesn't do. He listens more than he talks. He is cynical. He doesn't trust anyone ever except, we are told, his granny.
That's a great detail.
It is. And he has honed silence, that uncomfortable, awkward silence, into a really effective interrogation technique. He prefers it over any kind of grandstanding.
And he's also pointedly non-religious, which I think is crucial when you're dealing with a family that seems to view its own destiny as, divinely ordained.
Absolutely. There's this moment when Mrs. Calvert, in a moment of genuine desperation, offers him her silver rosary ring. It's a symbol of the good that people are capable of.
And what does he say?
He confesses to her, "In my line of work, I've seen too many things to believe in God. He's there for evidence. He's not there for absolution."
So his first active interaction is with Senator Towers, Ransom, now in his mid-60s.
Right. Ransom, the surviving sibling, and he immediately attempts to establish dominance. He relocates the interview to his home office at Cliffhaven. It's a calculated move to put Church on the defensive, to have him seated facing that massive desk.
Ransom is a seasoned politician. He wants this interview on his turf, on his terms, but he makes a fatal misstep almost immediately.
He does. He asks Church, "So tell me, detective, what's this I hear about a second body?"
And Church picks up on that right away.
Immediately. The sheriff's office had not yet released this critical piece of information to the public, or even officially to the family. Ransom claims his housekeeper, Florence, told him.
Which might even be true.
It might be, but it immediately brands Ransom as someone who uses his powerful network to circumvent official channels. The interview literally begins with a breach of confidentiality.
So Church is now on high alert. He's looking for cracks in that methodical exterior. When he asks about the night of the disappearance, what does Ransom say?
Ransom delivers this highly controlled account. He claims he left Saworski's 18th birthday party early, retreated to his room to smoke a cigar, read a book, watched the fireworks from his balcony, and then went to bed.
And the key takeaway from that is?
There is no corroborating witness. He was completely alone. He was performing these solitary, quiet activities in a way that is utterly untestable. Now, you mentioned this was a controlled account, but is it possible he was simply trying to get away from the chaos of a massive party?
That's a fair question, but Church notes Ransom's behavior the next day, and that reinforces this pattern of calculated avoidance.
What does he do?
Ransom went out on a boat with friends around noon and only came back when the house was already in a frenzy over Saworski's disappearance. He completely avoided the immediate aftermath.
So he missed the initial panic.
He missed all of it. And Church registers this as controlled, methodical. This suggests he was either strategically distancing himself from the chaos or, more sinisterly, deliberately waiting for the dust to settle before he came back to manage the narrative.
And that leads us directly to the primary motive that Church starts to investigate, which is
money and control.
Of course. Saworski's trust fund was enormous. It was tied up in all these various assets, including a company called Bascor.
And when she was declared legally dead, which was 5 years after her disappearance, the inheritance reverted entirely to Ransom as the sole surviving sibling.
So he got everything.
Everything. Now, Ransom tries to frame their relationship as difficult, but driven by care. He admits they were very different people, and he's the one who pulled her from the elite Choate boarding school.
And what was his reason for that?
Ostensibly, her health. She suffered from something called long QT syndrome, a dangerous arrhythmia, which made her prone to fainting and seizures. He claims confining her to Cliffhaven was necessary for her safety, even though he admits it caused some friction.
Some friction, I'm sure it did. But that medical condition, long QT syndrome, it's the perfect justification for extreme control. It's a genuine, life-threatening condition, which gives Ransom total moral cover for his actions.
Exactly. By confining her, isolating her from her liberal friends, and limiting her exposure to the outside world, he maximized his authority under the guise of being a protective older brother.
And there was a deadline on that authority.
The deadline was her 18th birthday. That was the moment she would gain legal independence and, crucially, access to and control over that massive trust fund. Ransom's authority was set to expire at midnight on that exact day.
So her disappearance on that day is just far too convenient. The financial pressure, the need to maintain control, it all points in one direction.
It does. And to deflect that intense suspicion, Senator Towers immediately offers up a plausible alternative person of interest.
Teddy Mountbatten, Saworski's volatile ex-boyfriend.
Right. Ransom paints him as jealous and violent. He recounts this story about a New Year's Eve party where he saw Teddy roughly grab and shake Saworski after she flirted with another boy. Ransom claims Teddy had a look in his eye like he could have killed her.
This just sounds like a perfect political maneuver. Deflect the blame onto the known volatile element, the angry ex-boyfriend.
And the police records confirm Teddy was interviewed 3 times back in '82. Initially, he played dumb. He claimed he saw Sowers was distressed, but he didn't pry.
But he changed his story.
In the second interview, he changed his story. He admitted to sharing a drink with her in the ballroom.
Okay, so what was his alibi?
His alibi was an amorous encounter with a server in a supply closet during the party.
Which is completely uncorroborated, I assume.
Completely. It screams suspicious. And when the police pressed him further in the third interview, he lawyered up. Big time.
Who did you get?
Alan Dershowitz.
Yeah.
And he invoked his right to remain silent.
So you've got 2 clear paths. On one hand, the controlled, methodical suspect, Ransom, with a massive financial motive and an uncorroborated alibi.
And on the other, the violent, jealous ex-boyfriend, Teddy, who hired a high-profile lawyer and then just shut down completely.
2 paths to explore. But then we have to overlay the crucial forensic evidence concerning the other body, the John Doe.
This is the third pillar of the current investigation. Church has this functional, trusting relationship with Dr. Nisha Laguirre at the Bureau of Forensic Services.
And she's described as a scientist who approaches life with this level-headed certainty that everything is just an equation with an exact answer.
Dr. Laguirre confirms the male gender from the bones, and she quickly rules out the need for further dental or skeletal identification, which lets the investigation focus on the real mystery.
The cause of death.
Exactly. And this is the most jarring detail we have so far, the one that has to shift our focus entirely. Dr. Laguirre, based on her preliminary findings, stated that there was no evidence of perimortem trauma.
No evidence of perimortem trauma.
Okay.
Let's pause and unpack the technical significance of that for you, the listener. Perimortem trauma means damage that happened around the time of death.
Right, like a bullet wound, a stab wound, blunt force trauma that would be visible on the bones.
So the absence of that is a massive finding.
It's huge. If the John Doe was killed by a quick, violent act like a struggle with the volatile Teddy Mountbatten, you would expect to see signs of force. The lack of trauma strongly suggests that this person was not killed by blunt force or a struggle.
So, does this exonerate Teddy? It certainly makes Ransom, the methodical suspect, more likely maybe via poisoning or suffocation, something that wouldn't leave a skeletal trace.
If this John Doe died by non-traumatic means, it suggests premeditation and control, which aligns perfectly with Church's assessment of Ransom's personality.
It also raises the question, why bury 2 bodies in the same place if they were killed differently? Did the John Doe die accidentally trying to help Sowers escape, maybe from a stress-induced cardiac event?
Or was he a pawn, murdered subtly, and intended to be found alongside Sowers to muddy the waters, make it look like a tragic accident or a drug overdose?
We have to hold on to this detail, the lack of trauma, as we move back in time to the volatile summer of 1982.
To really understand the tension that created a killer, we have to go back to June 1982. Specifically to the moment this other volatile element, Ana Rojas, was introduced into the closed system of Cliffhaven.
Just 3 months before Sowers disappeared.
Exactly. And Anna's arrival is driven purely by desperate necessity. She's a 23-year-old nursing student, intelligent and capable, but she was forced to delay her studies to care for her sick mother in San Bernardino.
So she needs the money. Badly.
The job pays $8 an hour plus room and board, which for her situation is an absolute fortune.
She applies blind, though, right? She doesn't know who she's applying to work for.
Not at first. She only realizes during the interview that her employers are the hyper-privileged Towers family, and she immediately feels the weight of that class difference. She shows up in her best JCPenney skirt and button-down and just feels profoundly underdressed in the opulence of Ransom's office.
And that interview with Congressman Ransom Towers and his secretary, Jacqueline Yates, it's a critical moment.
It is. Ransom initially just dismisses Anna. He says she lacks the constitution needed to deal with Sowars's temper and Florence's rigidity. He's looking for someone they can control.
And Anna doesn't project that.
Not at all. But Anna, fueled by what the source calls a hot flash of resentment at his casual dismissal of her struggles, she just unleashes this furious, powerful response.
What does she say to him?
She tells him about the brutal strength it takes to watch a loved one die. She rails against the trivial hoops he makes people jump through, and she ends with this incredible line. So if you really want to do me a favor, Mr. Towers, you can fuck off.
Wow. To a congressman.
To a congressman. And that burst of authentic, volatile rage is exactly what Ransom wanted, even if he didn't know it. The source notes that he almost seemed to smile.
And he hired her on the spot.
Immediately. Said he liked her moxie. But Jacqueline Yates gives her this dire warning on the way out. She says, "Remember, don't be nice. They certainly won't be."
So Anna was brought in to disrupt Summaries, but she is clearly a disruptive force in her own right.
And Anna arrives prepared for disruption, or maybe for confrontation. After Mrs. Talbot coldly directs her to the Helps motor court, Anna finally gets to her room. And the first thing she does is highly suspicious.
She unpacks her nightgown, which is tightly wrapped around a small, compact, heavy object.
A matte black, snub-nosed revolver.
And not just the gun. 5 cartridges, tucked carefully into a wool sock. She then meticulously hides both the weapon and the ammunition under the logs in the copper log bucket next to her fireplace.
Okay, we have to spend some time on this detail. This is the single strongest piece of evidence we have that Anna is not who she claims to be. This transforms her from a desperate nursing student into a woman with a plan.
An operative. A mysterious operative with a capacity for violence.
Why do you bring a deadly weapon to a caretaking job? Who was that gun meant for? Was it for ransom? Was she planning some kind of revenge? Or did she fear for her own life, knowing the reputation of the Towers?
The last one is certainly plausible. She's arriving into a strange, hostile environment, but the nature of the gun, a snub-nosed revolver, that's significant.
It's a close-quarters weapon.
It's a personal weapon. It's not for hunting. It signals immediate defense or offense. This tiger on a leash that the source material talks about, she's literally armed.
And we get some quick clarity on why they needed to hire someone like Anna in the first place. It was to manage Summaries' relentless resistance to her first isolation.
Summaries is described as beautiful with a heart-shaped face. And her illness, the long QT syndrome, was being used as the excuse for her confinement. But she was actively driving away her previous caretakers with these elaborate pranks.
She's a master manipulator. Her pranks range from classic boarding school hijinks, itching powder, green toothpaste dye,
to the genuinely disturbing. She places a tarantula under Anna's pillow on the 3rd night.
But Anna's reaction to the tarantula, which she names Harold, by the way, it's telling.
She handles it easily. Apparently, she'd dealt with her younger brother's pet tarantula. She just sets it free and refuses to be bested. She treats the threat not with fear, but with competence and dismissal.
She's immediately signaling to Summaries that this caretaker is different.
And then comes the first, truly theatrical encounter, the betrayal.
Summaries lures Anna onto a private beach. She offers her this iced tea, persimmon with a hint of turmeric, which Anna drinks, noting the bitter aftertaste.
It was laced with Benadryl. Summaries used her medical knowledge to incapacitate her caretaker.
While Anna is sleeping, Summaries executes her plan. She steals Anna's clothes, her thermos, and the horses they rode down on. She leaves Anna nearly naked and stranded 2 miles from the house,
forcing her to walk along the highway in her underwear. It's an act of profound psychological cruelty designed to humiliate and break the caretaker.
Anna is rescued by Salvador Santos, Summaries' tutor. He's this brilliant, multilingual Brazilian Stanford scholarship student.
And he confirms this isn't a one-off thing.
Not at all. He tells Anna that Summaries' behavior is intentional. He even mentions a previous identical prank involving a caretaker walking along the highway in her underpants. This confirms a pattern of malice.
And Salvador gives Anna 2 crucial pieces of intelligence. What are they?
First, that Mrs. Talbot, the housekeeper, is rooting for Anna to fail because Ransom overruled her hiring authority. So Anna is totally isolated within the house staff.
And second,
that Ransom, despite his controlling nature, is rarely even there. He's always in D.C. or traveling.
But instead of breaking Anna, this whole experience just strengthens her resolve. Salvador expresses worry that her anger will lead to an impulse she might regret.
But Anna internally resolves that her rage was a tiger on a leash, sitting obediently at her heel, waiting for the command to strike. She refuses to be a victim.
Which brings us back to the question we asked earlier. What command is that armed tiger waiting for? The stakes are escalating so rapidly.
As July begins, the pressure cooker just intensifies. Ransom returns to Cliffhaven, and he brings with him his longtime confidant and godfather, William Bass.
Here, Bass is central to the entire financial motive in this case.
Tell us about him.
William Bass, he's 47 at the time, the charismatic CEO of Bass Corp, and as you said, Ransom's godfather. He was a constant, almost fatherly fixture in the siblings' lives. And he'd always encouraged Summaries' rebellious streak. He'd tell her he found it refreshing when a young lady speaks her mind.
So she trusted him.
Which made his complicity so much more devastating.
How was he complicit?
When Summaries, confined to Cliffhaven, pleaded with Bass for help, She described herself as a castaway on a remote island, shooting her last flare. But Bass had already known Ransom's plan, and he told her, coldly, just trust me that this is for the best.
He was financially and emotionally invested in her imprisonment.
Completely. And the inevitable confrontation just explodes during a 4th of July lunch on the beach. It's this lavish affair, heavily catered with seafood and meat.
Which provides Sawars, a fiercely liberal PETA advocate, with the perfect weapon, her ethics.
She uses her deeply held vegan beliefs to attack her brother and Bass over the barbaric practice of factory farming and eating meat. She delivers this truly provocative statement, arguing that pigs are more intelligent than dogs.
And even more intelligent than 3-year-old humans. This isn't just about her diet choice. She is using morality to undermine their financial and ethical standing.
And then she delivers the blow that truly matters, the financial threat. Sowers announces her plan to divest her majority share in Basscorp the moment she turns 18.
Citing their factory farming practices as unethical and unsustainable.
And this moves the conversation instantly from a philosophical debate to massive financial ruin.
The reaction from Bass is immediate and violent. It shatters the idyllic beach setting. He throws his crumpled napkin, his face goes beet red, and he accuses her of self-destruction, of throwing away her legacy for a pig.
The source notes that in that moment, he looked old and tired. He was suddenly seeing the massive personal and corporate damage she represented.
And he pivots instantly from rage to calculated control.
He does. He attempts reconciliation by revealing they're planning a massive 18th birthday party for her, 200-300 guests, a live band, dancing, fireworks.
It's presented as a peace offering, but it's a strategic move. By forcing her into a public-controlled environment, they believe they can manage her transition to adulthood and maybe mitigate the divestiture threat.
And Soares accepts. But she's guarded. She's questioning if it's a bribe or an olive branch. The whole scene just perfectly captures the collision of high finance and personal trauma.
And that leads us to the heart of Sawars's emotional state.
The sources reveal this profound grief and guilt that Sawars carries over her parents' death. And it manifests in this recurring, psychologically brutal nightmare.
What does she dream?
She sees her mother, Bertie, at the breakfast table, reading the obituary clipping. But the image is morbidly forensic. Her mother has a bluish tint to her lips and broken nails. She's covered in sea lice.
That's horrifying.
And her mother asks her, "Don't you recognize your own mother, child?"
Wow. That dream is so profoundly dark. It reveals her unresolved horror and her guilt about the violent, uncontrolled way her mother must have died, just floating at the bottom of the ocean, decaying. Her parents' glamorous lives ended in uncontrolled ruin, and she feels that guilt so deeply.
And she clings to one tangible proof of love, a gold locket gifted by her mother. It's inscribed with an E.E. Cummings line about being the center of the universe. She wears it constantly.
It symbolizes her desperate need to believe that her aloof, politically ambitious mother truly loved her, despite a childhood filled with distance and criticism.
Meanwhile, as all this is going on, the armed caretaker, Anna, is executing her own plan in the shadows. On her Sunday off, she waits until Ransom is gone and everyone is asleep, and she meticulously breaks into Ransom's private sanctuary.
She manages to pick the lock on his bottom desk drawer with a paperclip, and the room itself is a psychological revelation.
How so?
It's described as cold, sterile, and professional. It's filled with these curated classics, Pynchon, Gibbon, and architectural tomes. No photographs, no personal memorabilia. It's a room designed to project intellectual gravitas, but it's utterly devoid of personality.
And what does she find in the locked drawer?
2 critical items. First, a thick black leather notebook, obviously personal, highly private. And second, a silver frame holding a photograph. And this photo is the only flicker of genuine warmth in his world.
Who's in the picture?
A dark-haired girl in a Stanford sweatshirt caught mid-conversation in a redwood forest. It's an uncurated, spontaneous moment. It suggests a private love, a genuine emotional connection that Ransom was either forced to abandon or chose to hide to maintain his rigid public persona.
So why would a man described as so methodical and controlled keep such a sincere token of vulnerability hidden away? It contradicts the sociopath label that Anna puts on him.
It does, and the tension reaches its absolute peak right after Anna finds the notebook. Ransom unexpectedly returns home, breaking his pattern of silence. Anna realizes he is the type of fucking sociopath who works at 5 a.m. after taking a red-eye flight. His relentless drive is her immediate danger.
She hides behind the desk, terrified, listening to his footsteps. The light flicks on, and then, mercifully, she hears the spray of water against the tile. He's in the shower.
It's a terrifying near miss. She quickly shoves the leather notebook under her sweatshirt and escapes, securing one of Ransom's most private secrets. Now she holds the physical key to understanding the political machine she has entered.
But the narrative of Ransom as purely the fucking sociopath is immediately complicated by the source material. We discover this enormous generations-old secret that he's carrying.
Right, the weight of the tower's name that goes beyond politics and finance.
We follow Ransom on one of his rare, unsupervised trips. He leaves Cliffhaven early, drives south down the 101 to an old white mission on the Central Coast. He's going to visit his hidden older sister, Vivian Smith. Vivi.
Vivi is Theo's twin. She's 28 in 1982, but due to oxygen deprivation at birth, she has the intellectual capacity of an 8-year-old.
She lives a simple, happy life on the property of the Sisters of the Sacred Heart in Santa Maria. She dedicates herself to collecting and pressing flowers, and Ransom visits her often. He even brings her pressed cherry blossoms from D.C.
This immediately paints a far more complex picture of the senator. He is capable of profound, sustained, and selfless care. But this relationship is also the root of his burden.
How so?
He only learned of Vivi's existence after his parents died. They had successfully hidden her for decades.
And the reason for hiding her is rooted in a darker part of American history. Ransom's parents feared the public shame, which, in that era, was directly tied to the prevalence of social Darwinism and eugenics ideals among the powerful and educated elite.
Revealing an intellectually disabled twin would have severely stained their political legacy.
Ransom himself acknowledges that today, his parents' actions would be seen as cruel, barbaric. But the dilemma is that he feels compelled to keep Vivi's existence a secret now, out of a sense of duty to the legacy and the name.
He fears the insurmountable censure that revealing her would cause to the Living Tower's name. He genuinely views himself as Atlas.
Condemned by the gods to stand at the edge of the earth and hold up the sky.
Exactly. He's carrying the weight of his family's past sins and protecting the foundation of the dynasty. He sees himself as a martyr, forced to maintain an impossible standard of perfection.
And this complex portrait of Ransom, the controlling politician who was also a guilt-ridden Alice, it deepens the potential motive for the murder of Suarez. If Suarez, through her political activism and her plan to divest from Baescourt, threatened to destabilize the family name and fortune.
Would he eliminate her to protect not just the financial empire, but also the secrecy surrounding Vivi? The murder becomes less about money and more about preserving the integrity of the tower's shield.
And that brings us back to Anna and the lingering suspicion that Ransom has about her. During that 4th of July fireworks show, just moments before Florence shatters her teacup, Ransom finds himself alone with Anna on the terrace.
He notes how pretty she looks, and he is suddenly struck by this powerful sense of déjà vu. It's not just passing familiarity, it's overwhelming.
And he asks her about it directly.
He does. He asks her, "You're absolutely sure we haven't met before?" He can't place her, but the feeling suggests a shared history that connects her not just to the estate, but maybe to a previous period of his life.
And Anna's reaction is telling. Her eyes flash with what is described as fear. Uneasiness. She nervously dismisses the question, and she's relieved when the fireworks start, allowing her to escape the inquiry.
This is the final piece of the puzzle connecting the past and the present. The caretaker, who is armed and full of rage, has a hidden history connected to Ransom or the Towers family that she cannot afford to reveal.
A history that Ransom, the meticulous observer, is struggling to recall.
The sources present this closed system at Cliffhaven, where every single major player is operating under immense pressure and wearing a mask. Suarez is desperately fighting for freedom.
Ransom is fighting for control and legacy. Florence is fighting to maintain the house's silent integrity.
And Anna is hiding a violent purpose. The question is, which of these forces struck first, and how did the John Doe get caught in the middle?
This dive leaves us with an incredibly dense and layered analysis. So let's try to synthesize these two timelines, the volatility of 1982 and the methodical cold case investigation today.
Let's focus on the intersecting pressures that led to this double homicide.
Okay, so at the center, you have Suarez. She was trapped by her perceived illness, she was confined by her brother, and she was resentful of the political machine she was supposed to inherit.
Her 18th birthday wasn't just a rite of passage, it was a detonation point. It was the moment she planned to use her financial independence to challenge the family's ethics.
Specifically targeting Baescourt, and by extension, Ransom's power base.
Then you have Ransom, the man who saw himself as Atlas. He was desperately trying to protect the tower's name and fortune, which included protecting the secret of his hidden sister, Vivi.
He viewed Sawarsi's impending independence and her divestiture plan as this unpredictable liability that could destroy the carefully crafted legacy he felt obligated to uphold.
Which makes him the most dangerous kind of suspect. One motivated by a sense of duty, not just by greed.
And finally, we cannot ignore Ana Rojas, the mysterious caretaker. She possesses critical medical knowledge, she has a profound need for money, and she concealed a hidden firearm on the estate.
Her tiger on a loose rage suggests a pre-existing connection or motive for vengeance that is tied to the Towers family. A motive solidified by Ransom's powerful sense of déjà vu.
In Detective Church, the objective outsider, he believes that if Ransom committed the murder, it was premeditated, perfectly planned, immaculately executed.
The sheer chaos of the birthday party, the crowd, the fireworks, it would have been the perfect cover for a killer who is controlled and methodical.
But that perfect plan hits a significant cold wall in the present day. The John Doe. The financial motives, the emotional control, the precise deadline of the 18th birthday, it all points to Ransom eliminating Sowers as a problem.
But the John Doe showed no evidence of perimortem trauma. So if Ransom was the controlled, methodical killer who used poison or some other non-traumatic method, what was the real significance of this second male body found alongside his sister? Was John Doe simply a victim of opportunity? Maybe an unlucky lover of Sowers, or Teddy Mountbatten, whose volatile temper was exploited? Was he a failed attempt to help Sowers escape?
Or, considering the immense secrecy and the pressure Ransom was under, was this John Doe simply another victim of the deep-seated secrets hidden beneath Cliffhaven, a hidden consequence of the family's burning desire to maintain an impossible perfection? That is what we leave for you to consider.